Welcome back, dear guests. You've just arrived to our networking lounge, and in case you missed it, this is the opportunity for you to ask questions. So just use the live chat button and you can ask your questions and we'll pass them on to the experts here on stage. And let me just give you a short introduction of who we have. First of all, to my left, Sebastian Pesch, Product Manager, Customized Application and at Pepperl+Fuchs. Stephan Schumacher, Product Management, Cluster Intralogistics at Bosch Connected Industries. Bernd Fischer, Key Account Manager, Bosch at Pepperl+Fuchs. And Fabian Ritter, Engineering Business Development at Neoception. And because you're here because of a purpose, you had or have a great collaboration concerning the digital Kanban management. And now let's just give it a row. Tell us about your function and what experience you had.
Okay. My name is Sebastian Pesch, as you said. I'm product manager for customized solutions. This role I do since more than 3 years. Before I was responsible for a couple of portfolio products inside Pepperl+Fuchs as well.
Yes, my name is Stephan Schumacher. I'm working in the product management at Bosch Connected Industry for the cluster intralogistics. And the digital Kanban system was one of our key prerequisites for digitization of the internal material flow and further optimizations within intralogistics.
Right.
My name is Bernd Fischer. I'm Key Account Manager in the German sales department and responsible for the international Bosch group.
My name is Fabian Ritter. I'm project engineer at Neoception, and I'm looking at this project from the hardware level, but also on software side, and also into the possible business applications for that.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of insights today in effect of hardware level by Tobias Kehl and his presentation. So in case you missed it, you will find it on the on our online summit page later. But now let's get into detail. Stefan, you commissioned Pepperl+Fuchs and Neoception because you had an approach, some problems you couldn't solve. What approach was it?
We within this innovation Industry 4.0 project, we faced a lot of incredibly diverse challenges regarding comprehensive requirements that we derive from concrete processes. And when we first of all when we defined the processes, we did not focus on a particular technology or the technical feasibility, because we did not want to be stuck on a particular technology. And so we had an open discussion how to realize the system with Pepperl+Fuchs. And they came up with a great idea.
And what did you learn then?
The Industry 4.0 processes or the projects are very flexible and very, there are a lot of challenges coming within these projects. We, of course, had the task to find a solution to get rid of missing materials, to optimize the storage or to prevent missing wrong put-away processes, and also to get rid of excess stock on the shop floor itself. All of this on the background that the system should have a benefit for the plant itself. So our aim was to find a solution to optimize the overall process of this Kanban system with the return on invest of less than 2 years.
Stefan already said it. So this aim wasn't the existing technologies able to fulfill?
Unfortunately not, and that surprised us as well when we started the project, because the existing solutions, they are based on a static accommodation of the rack. So they are not, were not developed for a flexible material loading. They don't provide a complete and I have to say a continuous transparency either. And if you think about a flexible production inside Industry 4.0, This is actually a key and a basic requirement for a batch size one, as well customized products based on customer requirements.
Universal transparency, could you go more into detail?
Well, we realized very fast that it is very important to get all the processes that are happening in and around this supermarket to realize what is going on, what boxes are coming in, what are coming out. And this yielded a big complexity. We approached it with various technologies and found out that we needed multiple sensor technologies to combine all this information together and to produce this image of what is happening in the supermarket, what is going on, this transparency.
So the developed system allows us instantly after the start of the system to compare the digital and the physical stock. Already available systems on the market. They need a lot of mechanical adjustments so that it's very tricky to set them up on the shop floor itself. And that's why we say they are not feasible on the shop floor. And also they have technical limitations, so there are areas where we cannot detect boxes. So we had to find a different technology to adapt this solution.
Focusing on the users is very important, as we've seen in the presentation as well. How did you approach that?
Well, the first thing was to not think about technology or what we could throw at this problem, but to actually talk to the user and sit in one room to create a shared knowledge of this whole process, what every user is doing, what every user group wants to achieve with this supermarket. And this was the first milestone to get to this shared knowledge and to realize what is going on. We wrote this stuff down in a functional analysis, which is a very important document for us, to gather all this information out and to do an actual programming or see what technology is needed after we've realized what is important for this process.
So we also got at that point the idea that the user should be supported by a put-to-light signal that he can see also from longer distances. So within the factories we do not have only these smaller shelves that we've seen in the video. There are supermarkets 10-15 meters wide in our facilities. And so the idea was to have a put-a-light system assist the employee finding the correct lane where to put the material, which of course reduces the time for searching the correct lane, and also have the opportunity to give the user a feedback if he put the material into the correct lane, or in case of the wrong lane, then he can directly correct the put-away process. And therefore, we were able to reduce one of the main reasons for missing material on the shop floor or for the assembly line.
So systems are important for me as a layperson. Bernd, don't these systems exist already, or what's the difference?
Yes, exist already, but not on this level. I think we did a new approach with digital images behind the digital twins that we show on the screens and send this information straight to the ERP system. And so we enhance them to do these automated bookings and automated reorders.
Anything to add about that point? Systems?
Maybe one thing to add, when we talked about these nice little features we all implemented, in particular the visualization function. When we spoke to the people and the plants directly, this is what they really liked. Because they understood that really as a helpful feature to support their daily work, so they integrate it in their day-to-day work. So we got, in particular on that, a very positive feedback.
Mm-hmm.
That's also one point. It's one of the success factors for these Industry 4.0 projects, to integrate the people into development of the system, to integrate their requirements into the solution. And for example, we had this three-dimensional visualization of the digital stock we've seen in the video a few minutes ago. And this idea was created within a UX workshop with the employees. So they said we need a very easy possibility to verify the stock on the digital level with a physical available stock. And that's how we generated this idea.
You've already been talking about the return of invest. Of course, these questions are always posed. Like, okay, sounds great, but how about the costs? You wouldn't be sitting here if they were too scary.
Yes, of course. I mean, it's without saying that the cost is very crucial for implement such a solution, and the cost or the effectiveness of the solution is depending on the process itself, of the behavior of the employee at the rack, the processes, also the size of the Kanban system, and also the material throughput. So all this decides if the system is beneficial or not. On the other hand, we need to take a look at the complete process. So it's not only the put-away process itself, it's the complete process, the time for searching the correct lane, to the elimination of manual bookings, doing this in an automated way, to get real-time stock information and prevent other problems that occur on this basis. So with this approach and by reducing all these times I mentioned, we are able to achieve a return on invest less than 2 years, especially in high-wage countries. That's one fact, and there are other things which are very difficult to calculate. For example, the material planner who gets the information about the stock floor in real time. And with this information, we can send him automated push notifications in case of deviation, material that is missing on the shop floor, so that he has a lot of more time to react and to overcome with such situation, and therefore reduce stop at the assembly line, for example.
Well, speaking of costs, maybe it's a little point, but we've seen in the presentation and in the keynote before, it's about wiring connection and not non-wireless, not non-wired, but wireless. So thinking of installation, for me, wired might be more expensive, isn't it?
That is typical, the first impression people give or get from this general approach, which we have seen in the presentations before. But let's put it this way. A Wi-Fi system does not provide the scalability we actually need in bigger plants or in a bigger environment. And so with this Wi-Fi system themselves, you are faced with a limited system. So you have another option if you can't accept it. Of course, you buy a second or a third one. And this is, of course, then also not very cheap, and the integration is also very complex. We reduced installation effort in a way because we just introduced a simple bus line. And with our sensor bar we developed, you are able to equip sensor channels centrally in a deep rack, and a deep rack means 2 meter or up to 3 meter, which was in our case, or is in our case, standard in a bigger environment. The data transmission, the detection before, and as well the management is of course significantly secure. And with this wired approach, stable. So a lot of positive things.
Let's talk about security later. But as we just mentioned, wired, non-wireless, I'm thinking about clouds. I mean, like cloud services are almost everywhere. We have it in our cell phones, using tablets, and so on. How about the cloud technology for this?
Well, cloud is not always the right answer for everything, as it might seem nowadays when it's just used as a buzzword. but it's a technology that can be used and can be useful also. For example, if we think about production, we don't think about singular locations where we are producing or assembling. We're thinking about multiple facilities across countries, also across cities, for example, and they all need to be connected, and they all need this data, for example, to do their assembly. And for that, we can use this cloud technology, which would be otherwise very difficult to and also expensive to implement, because you need to have an IT system and also people that are capable of handling such systems to get them up to scale and also to have availability around the clock. So for this, we can use this technology, and it's very beneficial to use it here.
And important, of course, for updating maybe, or is it by another way?
Well, it's also used for the updates, which can be done by all this cloud technology, to just again use the buzzword, but it makes it very easy to connect to these systems, to also gather log files, for example, for debugging if there are problems. We can quickly see where's the problem, what is going on. We can also see all the availability that goes into the monitoring things that are needed for keeping a factory up. All these systems rely on cloud technology and can use this to be better.
Updating, of course, is important for IT security, since we're having here quite big technological system. How is the standard about IT security here?
Well, the updates are not only used for IT security, but for also very important for IT security. And we've seen a rise in cyber attacks in the recent years to all kinds of also production facilities. And oftentimes the main entry points are systems that have been there for ages and have not been patched, that are still sitting somewhere in the corner, but they are connected to the network, and they are somehow used to attack a whole facility and can take down production facilities for long times, as you all know and we've seen in the last times. So if we use this technology, we can deliver updates also for security and patch vulnerabilities that are found, and that are we can patch them also very quickly because it's easy to update such a system.
Let's have a look from the user side, especially. Do those systems work out of the box, the digital common management right here?
Well, they do work out of the box, but these systems are typically installed, like we've heard, for 10, 15 years. And in this time, the environment of these systems will change. There will be other IT systems they are connected to. There will be other formats where they need to deliver this data to. And also the processes around this supermarket might change. The assembly lines might change. And to adapt to these changes, we need to update the systems constantly. Also, there might be some features that we find very important and good for the workers that we can implement later on and put them into an update, put the new feature into an update, and solve the problem, for example, that we didn't know existed some years before.
I think that's one of the main points. So when we implemented the solution in the first pilot plants and we got the feedback from the workers, they came up with new ideas, what they can do with the data, new features, new requirements that they put into our backlog, so that we could decide, okay, what do we have to implement into the new software release. And this is how we can, on an agile approach, optimize the product to the customer needs. And with every release, every 3 months, we are able to put more and more features, get more and more into the situation that we can fulfill all additional requirements that they get with all the experience out of the system.
It sounds, first of all, a little abstract. How do you get those features into the supermarket?
Well, first of all, we're still going to this point where we are looking at the user. We're talking to them. What is the problem? How can we solve this? How can we help you? And one example would be like the put to light that we already talked about and that was shown in the live show also. We got the feedback that the worker has the box, for example, in front of his chest. He wants to put it somewhere in the supermarket. And we have this feature that the LED lights red if you put it in the wrong lane. So it helps the user. But we found out that if they have the box in front of them and put it in a lane that is roughly this height, then they can't see the red light when they're putting the box in. So they said, okay, there's a problem, we can't see it. And then the worker puts the box in and it's in the wrong lane and he hasn't seen the red blinking light. So we thought about it, we talked to them, and then we adapted it to, in this case, we blink all the red LEDs around this lane to give really hard feedback and to show that there is an error. So this was something we couldn't think of when we developed it, and so we had to rely on the worker to help us here. Where's the problem? Where can we help you?
Let's keep the focus on the users. Shift managers, for example, how could they benefit from that?
For us, it's the first time that we can provide them the status information about the supermarket in real time. For example, the inventory. They can see it not only at the supermarket itself, they can also get the information on a mobile device or from remote locations. And this really helps them to react faster on deviations of the supermarket. In the past, they had to, they took a look into their ERP system. They saw what material should be available on the shop floor itself. But in many cases, there have been deviations between the digital and the physical stock. And that's why they had to react in a very short period of time to prevent line stoppage. And with the system, they get the information in a with a lot of more time that they can react and get the right decision.
A question that occurred this morning for me pretty interesting, because it's in fact a customer's view was, can I have those boxes in another color or maybe another size? How individual can you build up those Kanban management systems?
Well, of course, with the system we developed, you are quite independent from this point of this box perspective. We use a background suppression technology. This background suppression technology has, in principle, two advantages. It's first of all almost color independent or color independent within its defined working range. And then you saw in the movie these different layers, and of course this background technology can then blank out the next layer, so you can come very close with your boxes. So yes, there is a lot of independency on these objects.
Okay, so maybe if you want to have pink boxes or whatever, no problem at all.
Yeah.
So I can imagine this as a collaborative project. It was maybe pretty busy on your desk, lots of interdisciplinary work. Tell us, how did you achieve here this approach?
Yes, I think we achieved this approach not only to write down our capabilities from the partners. I think the biggest milestone was the first step to come in the first demonstrator in a very short development time, and soon we get the approach we see in our team that we need a very quick process development and also a very agile product development afterwards.
So I think right at the beginning, both sides agreed that we need this agile approach to develop such a complex system. So it's not possible to define all necessary tasks in the beginning. So we said we do this in iterative processes. So we started with a demonstrator. We received the feedback from the users, and we were able, like Fabian explained, to integrate this into the system with the next release, and with this optimize the system to the requirements of the users and of the customers.
Maybe Mr. Schumacher as well. There was another good example is the so-called pattern recognition we have seen before in the movie. Because this was exactly one thing we optimized via a few iteration steps, And this because we put the demonstrator, or we put the complete system into a real environment, because we saw that it's the only possibility to map the object recognition themselves with the influences coming from the different operators or users, and with, let's say, purely lab-based optimization. This lab-based optimization would not work in such a case.
And the next step was to assign the roles in this project.
This was as well, in fact, something where it became very quickly that both development partners will contribute equally to this development. The BCI, for example, they developed stock management functions, while Pepperl+Fuchs and Neoception, we developed a software interface, including the user actions analyzers, what is happening in the rack. And of course, as we have seen, we provided or developed the different system components.
So what's your current status now?
So we are officially ready for rollout. So we implemented the solution in many plants within Bosch. We get the first user feedback, and we also have seen that there's a training necessary on site with the employees. We are right now supporting them with our team and with partners for the rollout.
Okay, so it's
training.
Ready for distribution, right?
Yes.
How is it going to be distributed then?
It's currently distributed by the Bosch Connected Industries for the internal market and for the external market.
So that's at the moment the status. In medium term, it also would be possible to distribute this via small and medium-sized companies to use their distribution channels and service channels. But this depends on the requirements of the customers.
Maybe connected. This question from our chat from Mexico: where's the system already integrated?
So the system is running within many Bosch facilities, within Germany, Italy, Turkey, and we are right now going into the rollout into further Bosch plants. So, but the system is also available for the external market.
So maybe integrated soon in Mexico, maybe. That's actually an important question. So if a customer or a future customer says, or partner, I would like to know more how to get in touch with you.
So the best way is to get in touch with our sales organizations worldwide. So especially in Mexico, we have very good organizations there that are also in deep contact with the Bosch plants. And every customer is welcome to get the information he needs.
Another topic, this might be a little tricky, but of course we're very aware of personal data security. We had the RFID wristband seen in the presentation by Tobias Kehl. Aren't workers maybe somehow critical of that, or what's the reaction?
Yes, of course, especially in the beginning we had to cope with different obstacles with this wristband. First of all, there have been ergonomic issues, hygienic aspects, also the fear of employees that they are tracked wearing the wristband, and you can see how much time they spend at the coffee table, for example. At this point, it's very crucial to to involve the people into the process, and also to address their concerns into the development of the solution. For example, with the wristband, the receiver and transmitter is interchangeable. So every employee gets a wristband of his own. It's also available in different sizes to cope with the ergonomic aspect and the hygienic issue. And we also found a workaround process so that the worker can place the wristband on the milk run train and use it as some kind of static RFID reader. In the beginning, we saw that many employees used this workaround process, but it's not so convenient for the users because he has to pick up the material. There's no automatic identification of the material, and he has to go with the material directly to this reader and then start this put a light process. So we saw that many employees after the first period of time switched over to the normal process with the wristband.
Mm.
Yeah, and I think additionally we can say that you can use also the traditionally stationary reader as we've seen in the presentation in the live launch.
That's also one of the main advantages of the solution, because we are not stuck to a special kind of identification technology. For example, it's not necessary to have an RFID end-to-end process. It's also possible to use this system, for example, with a barcode reader.
Anything to add? Otherwise, there's another question from the live chat, so feel free to ask. As we said, we pass the questions forward. Do you use artificial intelligence for the pattern recognition? I guess, Fabian, this is a good question for you.
Well, the big problem is that to use artificial intelligence, you need data. And in the beginning, there was no system like ours, and so we had no data. So actually, we are now at it's not artificial intelligence. We have a rule-based system here that's close to fuzzy logic, but not totally, that implements all these findings from the different factories and also from different use cases that we had. Maybe in the future, if we gather enough data, it might be necessary or good or beneficial to use all this data. To use artificial intelligence could be something for the future, but for now we just don't have enough data.
System works as well without that.
Yes.
So, anything from you to add at this point? All right, since we don't have any further questions, now's the chance. Well, if there are any questions about this networking lounge, just feel free to ask. We'll pass them, of course, forward, and they will be answered afterwards. No problem at all. And so at this point, I would just say thanks a lot. Pretty intense insights today in cases of Kanban management, digital Kanban management. Thank you, and we'll see tomorrow, day 2, here at Pepperl+Fuchs, and then our topic is going to be how enterprise mobility is driving the digital transformation. So, thanks again for watching, and see you tomorrow either at 8:30 a.m. German time or 2:30 p.m. German time. Goodbye.